Welcome to the Chemistry, Biology and Math Revision Hub. Today we are doing the Pearson Edexcel International A-Level Chemistry Unit 1 for January 2022. This is the Part 1 video. I'll put a link to the Part 2 video below in the description box. Let's begin with question 1. Question 1. Element X is in group 2 of the periodic table and element Y is in group 7. X and Y are not the symbols of the element. What is the formula of the compound formed from X and Y? If X is in group 2, it means it's a metal, and Y is group 7, that is a halogen, which is a non-metal. So the formula should be like that, which is XY2, and therefore the answer should be a C. Question 1b. Under what conditions does a compound formed from X and Y conduct electricity? And again, a reaction between a group 2 element and a group 7 element produces an ionic compound, and we know ionic compounds cannot conduct electricity in solid state, but they can conduct electricity when molten or in melted state, as well as in aqueous state. So the only correct answer is a D, which is in the liquid state and in aqueous state only. In question 2, which of these compounds would you expect to have the highest melting temperature? Highest melting temperature should exist between a cation and anion that form the strongest ionic bond. So in this case, we expect sodium fluoride because we see sodium is smaller in comparison to potassium and they have the same charge, while fluoride is also small. So this one here, we are going to have the smallest, or I'll say shortest bond, which is going to be the strongest one, and therefore that is going to be a higher melting point. Moving on. Question 3. A drop of an aqueous solution of green copper 2 chromate is placed in the center of a strip of damp filter paper. To go back here, green color is due to presence of blue and yellow. Copper 2 is blue and chromate 6 is yellow, so the mixture of these two colors creates the green color. The ends of the filter paper are connected to a DC power supply. What is observed after a few minutes? Because copper 2 is going to be blue and positively charged, it will move towards the negative electrode, while this one here is going to move towards the positive electrode. So we can see a yellow color has moved to the positive electrode because the anion, which is this one here, I hope you can see the negative properly. So the anion moves to the positive electrode, as well as we'll see a blue color to the negative electrode because copper 2 is going to be blue. So the answer here should be a C. Question 4. Which of these isoelectronic ions has the smallest ionic radius? In isoelectronic, it means they contain the same electronic configuration. So if all these have the same electronic configuration, the one with more protons is going to have the smallest ionic radius. And as we see, aluminium has 13 protons, this one has 11, this has 9, and this one has 7. So the answer here is going to be aluminium with 13 protons. In question 5, which properties of a cation result in the greatest polarizing power? A cation with the greatest polarizing power should have a small size as well as a higher charge, so a small radius and a larger charge, and D is our corresponding answer. Question 6. Which properties of an anion result in being most easily polarized? For an anion to be easily polarized, it should have a larger size and it should have a high charge, so a large radius and a large charge. So A is right, a large radius and a large charge. Moving on. Question 7. Which is the ionic equation for the reaction between aqueous solutions of barium nitrate and sodium sulfate? When barium nitrate reacts with sodium sulfate, we get barium sulfate and sodium nitrate. This is soluble because all nitrates are soluble, and this is soluble because all salts of sodium are soluble. This is also nitrate, it will be soluble. So splitting the aqueous and cancelling out the spectator ions, I get barium 2 plus SO4 2 minus gives us barium sulfate, and therefore my answer should be a D. Moving on. Question 8. Which of these molecules is not polar? In B, C, and D, we can see these are going to be polar, but this one here is going to be non-polar because even if the bonds in carbon dioxide are polar, the molecule is symmetrical, so there is no overall polarity on the molecule. So the answer should be an A. In question 9, the concentration of nitrogen dioxide in a sample of air is 0.5 ppm. What is the percentage of nitrogen dioxide molecules in this sample of air? So concentration in parts per million should equal to the concentration of the nitrogen divided by the concentration of air times 10 power 6. So that means the concentration of nitrogen divided by the concentration of air should be 0.5 divided by 10 power 6, and the percentage should be that times 100, and the corresponding answer is actually a C. It's to question 9. If you use your calculator, you get 0.00005%. Moving on. Question 10. Ethane reacts with bromine in the presence of ultraviolet radiation. What is the equation for the reaction? The reaction is going to be ethane plus bromine, gives us bromoethane plus hydrogen bromide, because the reaction is a substitution reaction and the mechanism is a free radical one, so B is going to be the answer. In part B, ultraviolet radiation is needed for. In this reaction, it's going to be needed for the homolytic breaking of the bromine-bromine bond, and therefore the answer should be an A. Question 11. All alkanes have the same. They have the same general formula, which is carbon N, hydrogen 2N plus 2. Question 12. A single molecule of decane is cracked. Which of these mixtures could not be formed? Let's see pentene and pentane. Yep, because 5 carbons, one is alkane, one is alkene, so that can be formed. We see ethene, butene, and butane. Let me see, these are 4 plus 4 plus 2, that is 10. 1 alkane, 2 alkenes, that can be formed. So we see propene, propane, and butene. So this is going to be 6 in total and 4. That gives us 10. 1 alkane, 2 alkenes, that's correct. In D, we see hexene and propane. Hexene has 6 carbons, propane has 3, that is a total of 9 carbons, so this is wrong, and therefore that will be our corresponding answer. Question 13. How many structural isomers have the formula carbon 3, hydrogen 6, Cl? Now, since these are 3 carbons, I drew my 3 carbons and positioned the chlorines around. In the first molecule, they can be on the same carbon, then one can be on carbon 1 and one on carbon 2, then both can be on carbon 2, and lastly, one can be on carbon 1 and the other carbon 3, so there are 4 corresponding molecules that can be formed. Question 14. The equation for the complete combustion of hexane is shown, which is exactly as that. How many molecules of carbon dioxide are formed when 2 times 10 power negative 3 mole of hexane undergoes complete combustion? If it undergoes complete combustion, it means all these moles are going to be reacted, and therefore the number of moles of carbon dioxide formed are going to be 6 times the moles of hexane, since the mole ratio is 1 to 6. So the number of carbon dioxide molecules is going to be the number of moles times Avogadro's constant. When you multiply that times that, you get 7.224 times 10 power 21 molecules, and the answer here should be a B. Question 15. Which pollutants cannot form when alkane fuels are burned in a car engine? Burning alkane fuels in a car engine could produce sulfur dioxide, could produce carbon particles or carbon or soot, and they could produce carbon monoxide, but hydrogen chloride cannot be formed, and so our answer is A. Question 16. Iron 3 oxide is reduced by hydrogen in a 2-step process. In step 1, we see the iron oxide reacts with hydrogen to form another oxide with water, and then this same reacts with hydrogen to form iron and more water. They ask what is the maximum mass of iron that could be produced from 39.9 tons of the oxide, which was the first one. I began by converting 39.9 tons into kilograms, which is 39.9 times 10 power 3, and into grams is going to be 39.9 times 10 power 6. That is the mass in grams divided by the molar mass, and it gave me this as the number of moles. So those are moles of this. To find the moles of this, they're going to be 2 divided by 3 times the moles of this, which I did here, and it gave me that. So this is the moles of that, but actually they are the same moles here. So to find the moles of iron, just multiply these moles by 3. So that times 3 gives us these moles here. And finally, to find the mass of iron formed, it's going to be the number of moles times the atomic mass, which is going to be that times that, giving me 27.9 tons. And therefore, that is my corresponding answer. Question 17. Which of these solutions contains the greatest number of ions? To find the greatest number of ions, I had to find the number of moles of each, and then multiply by the corresponding number of ions as well as Avogadro's number. However, actually, I did not multiply the Avogadro's number because since we're going to multiply with the same factor all through, it means even if I do not multiply, it's going to be okay. So for the first one, number of moles is going to be concentration times volume, which is that times 20 over 1,000, giving me 0.01 mole. However, there are two ions. There is a potassium ion and chloride, so that times 2 give me 0.02 mole of ions. For the second one, we can see number of moles is again concentration times volume, but because this is given to us in decimeters cubed, I don't need to divide by 1,000. So multiplying that times that gave me this. And again, here there are two ions, so that times 2 gave me 0.024 mole of ions. For this one, number of moles is concentration times volume. I divided the volume by 1,000. It gave me that. But here we can see there are two chlorides and one calcium, so 3. 3 times that, 0.018 mole. And lastly, number of moles is concentration times volume, which is that times that, giving me that. But there are 3 ions, that times 3, 0.018 mole of iron. So the greatest number of ions is observed here. That is why my corresponding answer is a B. Question 18. Potassium chloride 5 decomposes on heating to form oxygen. So the equation for the decomposition is here. They say what is the atom economy by mass for the formation of oxygen. Because we are looking for the atom economy by mass for oxygen, oxygen is my desired product. So for atom economy is going to be 3 times 32 divided by 3 times 32 plus 2 into potassium, which is 39.1, plus 35.5, which is for chlorine, and then multiply the whole thing by 100. I got my answer of 39.2%, which corresponds to a C. So this brings us to the end of section A, as well as to the end of this first video for this paper. Thank you for being with us. Do not forget to subscribe. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.